Hello, or shall I say as I normally do, waza. It's not how's everybody doing? Awesome. Sorry I'm not there with you in person. Um, it's been interesting times. Um, my name is Akin. I am here presenting with, I believe Raj is also on the call, was our TAM. We're going to be talking about our enterprise support and customer community. Well, we're going to be talking about our journey um, to the cloud and how we created our CCOE and what we've done with it. So we can go to the next slide. At Indeed, we help people get jobs. I don't know. I hope everybody here knows who Indeed is. We're by far the world's number one job site. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 to 400 million people come to our sites on a monthly basis. We can go to the next slide. Um, I lead an organization at Indeed called the Cloud Foundations Group. Our charter is to provide everything. Um, I guess we can be called the guardians of the cloud. I need to come up with that name for my team. So ultimately, we help enable um, everyone, all of our platform teams and individual teams in the cloud. We communicate and evangelize. These are the values that we stand for that I'm elaborating on here. We want self-service and easy buttons. We don't want people waiting on us. We're innovative, and we like to collaborate with our customers. These are the things that we try to do as we're the guardians of the cloud. Okay, next slide, please. I hope to share with you a timeline, a 10,000-foot timeline of where we started from and where we are in our cloud journey, why we invested and created a CCOE, and some of the accomplishments of our CCOE. Go to the next slide. So around 2010, Indeed became an AWS customer. We actually leveraged AWS almost as an on-prem site. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, we needed a data center, and there wasn't any reliable on-prem data centers, so we leveraged AWS as that data center, and that's what actually made us come into the cloud. Um, Between that time and 2020, we leveraged it for many things, but that was our primary rationale for Indeed going into the cloud. By March 2020, right before COVID, a decision was made by our leaders to migrate all of our on-prem and our remote sites into the cloud. And in 4 months later, I worked with my leaders to form our CCOE. Um, and the rationale behind that is we're going to the cloud. We need guardrails. There's so many things that we need to make sure that we set things up right. People at places to go for questions, education. I mean, we've been in the on-prem ever since our formation as a company, and now we're going to the cloud. All of the knowledge and know-how that we have on-prem, we now have to transfer that to the cloud. So that was one of the reasons we formed the CCOE, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We also formed a cloud business office a little bit after the CCOE was formed, and while CCOE was, I would say, the execution arm, the CBO was the strategic and more business, just like the name implies. By July 2023, we were 100% in the cloud. It was crazy. We got a couple of boosters. Um, on the way by freezing rains and freezing and icy temperatures in Texas that made us think, man, we better get this done quick. So this was an accelerated program. Doing what we did in 3 years uh, was unheard of. A lot of the projections were more like 5 to 6 years before we were expected to be 100% in the cloud. And then by uh, end of 2023 into the beginning of this year, we actually disbanded our CCOE, and it evolved into two teams. So we can go to the next slide. So why CCOE? I'm gonna let everybody read that stuff, and I'm just not gonna read the paragraph side to you, but we wanted to help people get to the cloud. We're a very distributed organization. We enable people. We just don't have a base infrastructure team for the entire company. People, everyone runs. We have a foundational infrastructure team, but everyone runs their stuff. We had cloud tenants that we wanted to uphold. We needed governance in the cloud. Again, when you have a very distributed organization, you then need to very strong guardrails. So we had governance to uphold. We wanted to be optimized, and we wanted to provide very clean and clear support. So we can go to the next slide also. So what that meant is help people get to the cloud meant we wanted to bridge a knowledge gap. So we did a lot of education in class, online, brown bags. We had even something that we call, maybe everybody here knows, Awesome Indeed Days, and we have over, you know, 10,000 people participate in that. Or sorry, I overestimated that. About 4,000 people participating in that. We wanted to uphold cloud tenants that we had set up. We have 6 of them. An example is IAC all the time. And we had other ones that we wanted to uphold and make sure that that would set us a good foundation. Governance in the cloud, preventing anarchy. Again, we have a lot of individual teams, very distributed. We wanted to make sure we had very good and clear guardrails to make sure that we could uh, provide the right platform for everyone. Optimization from cost to operations to architecture. We needed to make sure we were shepherding people in the right way. And then support, shared responsibility. How do we do network when people have issues with the network? Yes, we have enterprise support. Everyone can file a ticket, but then there are some things that affect multiple teams. How do we work through that? So those were all the things that we were trying to address by establishing our CCOE. Next slide. Here are some of our accomplishments in that 3 year span that the CCOE was established. We have over 3,200 accounts that were created during that time, and it was all self-provisioned. Prior to us having our CCOE, it used to take us about 6 weeks to create an account, going through one review to the next review to another review. We have reduced that to 15 minutes, and is all self-serve. We're account lifecycle implemented. What that means is we just don't only create accounts, we also shut down accounts and delete accounts. Cost optimization. We increased our discount rate from 27% overall to about 50% overall. We have 100% cost visibility, meaning every account, everyone can see what they're spending. In that time, from an operational perspective, we resolved over 16,000 tickets. So our CCOE ticket queue had over 16,000 tickets. Of course, identified new patterns in architecture. Within that time, also, we drove our automation to about 50% and self-serve. So we went from about 5% at the beginning of this to about 50% self-serve and automation towards the end of our CCOE run. Of course, we supported and provided. Access was huge. IAM was huge at the service and human level. So, next slide. Governance. We do not allow every single AWS service at Indeed. We have a list of allowed service, so we always review that and we work with teams that want to bring on additional services on what we need to do. We have 26 guardrails and cloud rules that we've implemented that we also review, add to, remove from. Um, we measure all of these things all the time. Um, I mentioned the event that we had over this time, anyhow, we had about 3,000 Indeedians trained. We went from, we multiplied the number of people that had certs by 8x during this time. Our wiki pages were off the charts, and 100% of our core infrastructure team, the team I lead, I actually gained either an AWS, both an AWS certification and a Terraform certification during this period. And yeah, in about 3 years, we we completed our migration. A little over 50% of the time that it was expected for us to do it. And I believe that's the end. Next slide. Any questions for me? Any questions for me?
How big is your team? How big is your team?
Yes.
Yes. I am running 45 full time and an additional 12 contractors. So we've lost people along the way from going on-prem to the cloud. There were more at the beginning, and it's the reason I was trying to see what number I needed to say. But we have team across the globe, so we have about 3 regions in the U.S., and we have in Dublin, and we have in Tokyo also. I hope that answered that question.
Yep.
Any others?
See none online. Any from the room? Any others in the room? Yes, one more.
I saw the comment about 100% cost visibility. Can you kind of describe how you're doing that? Some detail
Very
around
good.
it?
Thank you for asking that question. So one of the things that we did, we employed a tool called Kion, it used to be called Cloud Tamer, that we use for both governance and also cost visibility as additional indexes that we have internal at Indeed. But through that, we're able to give people access to their accounts. And when they have access to their accounts, they can see not only their cost, they can see some recommendations that we provide on cost savings. But with that tool, which is what everyone uses, to access AWS, we're able to provide 100% cost visibility to our teams, and we were able to also we merged our cost savings to our org structure, so at a director level, he can see how much he's spending across all of his teams. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. If there's not any other questions, I will say I'm glad that you mentioned the anecdote about the freeze. It was definitely a good. If there's anything that's going to test your readiness, it was the freeze. I hadn't heard that it was accelerated. I remember having to cut down a tree in the neighborhood just to keep warm after losing power for 5 days.
Yeah, we called that program at that time "Winter is Coming." To get ready after that original freeze. So it was a big push for us.
Sure, we got another question, Akin.
Hey, Akin, thank you for the presentation. One question I had was on your account creation strategy. So
Yes.
I think you mentioned about reducing it from 6 weeks to 15 minutes. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So when I joined Indeed, cloud was one of the functions that I managed, and it was a stepchild. And what we did then was somebody wanted an account. Great, we'll give you an account, but we had a very manual process. What did you want to use it for? We had all these forms to fill out. Ultimately, to make sure that we created one the account correctly, also to make sure we had all of the type of policies that they needed in the IAM user, what kind of service account. We had to go through almost a design review for every single request that we had. By the time we knew we were going to enable everyone, we flipped that on a script and we just said, okay, what are the guardrails that we don't want? We automated those. So, for example, we did not want everyone. We didn't want every service available to everyone. So we put in SCPs for those. There were some things that we leveraged cloud rules using Kion for. So we ultimately decided what those 26 guardrails that I mentioned, if we have this in play, we think we can allow people to request whatever account they want. We blocked GUI access for everyone. You deploy using Terraform is what IAC, Terraform, or Cloud Formation. So when we came up with those, we were then able to using Kion and of course tools and code that my team wrote, were able to provision those accounts. We also have shared network that we provision. So by the time you have your account, you have a Terraform workspace. You're put into whatever organization that you want it to be in, whether be it a prod or QA, or we also have sandboxes that we allowed for people to be in, and you had access to those when you were done. Does that
Okay,
make
with
sense?
that,
Yes, thank you, Akin. Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome.
okay, I think with that, it's a good time to take it in. Akin, thank you so much for coming back and presenting again. It's good.
You're very welcome.